There we go. Welcome, welcome everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from the Urban Farm Fruit Tree Program. Miss Janice is off on an adventure tonight, so you just get me. Tonight's class is 3 ways to kill your fruit trees. Well, really, don't do this, 3 ways to kill your fruit trees. I have been growing fruit trees in the desert for almost 50 years, and I have been educating people for almost 30 years about fruit trees, and I've seen it all. All right, maybe not all, but I've seen most of it all. And the first 15 or so slides tonight are some of the things that I see regularly with people sending me emails and on Facebook. I'll tell you what, there is so much misinformed information on Facebook. Be careful when you're pulling information from there, especially growing fruit trees. On the second Tuesday of each month, we do our, this is the second Tuesday, we do our fruit tree Q&A. Tonight we're doing this class instead, but February through December, once a month we get together and chat, take your questions, give you a little bit more education information about growing fruit trees in the desert. So that's always available for you as well. So 3 ways to kill your fruit trees. This is the Cliff Notes of it. Planting in a hot microclimate, planting in a lawn, and watering incorrectly. The good news is we have solutions for them all, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So hot microclimate, these are some suggestions of what hot microclimates might look like. Lots of gravel, lots of block walls, lots of concrete stucco houses, makes for a very, very hot space. Imagine planting yourself out there, not for just an hour or two, but for 24/7 in August. And how would you feel? So you have to kind of envision yourself as a tree when you're in this space on the right and say, how would I feel in this space? Now remember, I have solutions, fixes for all of this stuff. So picture on the left, fig tree on a mound. It was, that's a mound, so it brought it up above grade. And by the way, this fig tree didn't last very long. The picture came from a gentleman in Phoenix, and he said, what's going on here? They had one drip emitter right next to the trunk. When the water came on, oh, okay, good. Not seeing the pictures. Okay. Helps if I share the screen, huh? I'm sitting here, I'm laughing at myself now. I'm sitting here thinking you're all seeing this. There we go. Thanks for the heads up. That's why I need Janice around. Let's see, what was the first slide? First slide was 3 ways. Hot microclimate, planting in a lawn, watering incorrectly. And so we're going to see about a half a dozen slides about hot microclimates and concrete. So back to imagining yourself as the citrus tree on the right. If you had to be there even just for 2 hours in the afternoon in August, how would you feel? Well, that tree feels some of that, so we have to be cognizant of that. Picture on the left, fig tree on a mound. Wondered it eventually died, wondered why it was dying. When the water came on, the water would run right down the hill and wouldn't even stay close to the trunk. So both of these not so good. Tree on the left. This actually, when I took this picture, I was envisioning this class. It was right around 2012. I was a adjunct professor at Arizona State University, and this poor tree, I watched it die, was right next to the parking garage where I parked and walked to when I was teaching my classes there. And it's just Well, you'll see how we fix it in a minute, but it didn't stand a chance. Neither does this apple tree on the right stand a chance with all the gravel. It's just we're cooking our trees and this doesn't work. All right. Picture on the left in a pot in a very hot microclimate. This tree is not going to make it. I get a lot of questions these days from people asking about fruit trees in pots. If you can at all avoid it, please do. If you insist, the bigger the pot, the better. And then the pot needs to be shaded 100% of the time in the summertime. Shade it with cowpeas growing out of it. Figure out some way so that heat does not hit that pot. But that tree on the left, again, was a goner. You can see on the right, again, hot microclimate, planted in dirt. This was a solar oven. For me, on this picture on the right, if that was my yard, I would cover the entire yard with 12 inches of woody mulch. We're going to talk a lot about that in a little while, and start there. So you'll learn more about that here in a little while. Still too hot of a microclimate, even with the woody mulch. This tree, it was an avocado tree, if I remember correctly, and it did not make it. Avocado trees do not like the heat. And yeah. Too many block walls, not enough mulch and shade. We'll get to that here in a minute. Oh, this one I love. First of all, block walls, gravel. They did put a basin around the tree. It's like a 8-inch basin around the tree. This picture they sent me, and they were wondering if the peach tree was alive. Well, the peach tree looks alive. This was the root stock that came up. The peach tree on top died, so this one was a goner. Need definitely your 6-foot basin around that. Again, I'm going to cover that here in a little while. All right. Hot microclimate, no western exposure. So I did a garden consult with a family maybe 10 years ago, and they sent me this picture. And if you stood with your back against that wall, you would be looking west. We call this a western exposure. And they were having trouble getting anything growing in that garden bed. So a western exposure gets sun from noon until sundown. This will be the hottest part of the yard. Ultimately what I told them was to abandon the bed. I think I told them to take the wall out and just put in more decking around the pool, because it's just way, 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 way too hot. This one, oh, I love this. They planted citrus trees up against a block wall. The grass, the Bermuda grass, won't even grow underneath these trees effectively. So remember, please don't get discouraged. I have a solution for all of this stuff. We're going to be talking about that very quickly. Don't plant in a lawn. You can plant in a lawn, but when you plant in a lawn and the lawn goes right up against the tree for the first 2 years of the tree's life, it gets outcompeted. The Bermuda grass will outcompete your fruit trees. So don't plant it this way. And no string trimmers. I kid you not, this person sent me this and said, is there any hope for this tree? They string trimmered it to death. And then incorrect watering. We highly suggest not using drip emitters around your trees. If you have a drip system and need to use it, we have a solution, which I can talk about a little later. All right, so there you go. Those are the train wrecks for the evening. Now, what can we do about it? What we can do about it is plant the tree properly, understand soil. Don't skimp on soil and nutrients. So there's a difference between dirt and soil. We're going to distinguish that in a little while. What I tell people is expect to spend at least as much on supplements and soil the first year as you do the tree. So if you're spending $80 on a tree out of our program, you're gonna want to spend $80 to get it planted properly. I'll just tell you that right up front. The good news is our trees are half the price of what you get in most nurseries. So bonus for you. Plus, they're all varieties that are climate and season appropriate for the low desert. Really important. Build your basin. The 6-6 rule, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Add lots and lots of woody mulch. Remember that big old yard that I said I'd add 12 inches of woody mulch? That's where I would start. Then you want to water and feed correctly. What people don't get is that fruit trees, all plants, they need to eat every day. If we're only feeding them once or twice a year, they are malnourished. And then shade your tree in soil. So these are the 6 things we're going to cover next. Take notes. Creating healthy soil. There's 5 components of healthy soil. Dirt is one of them. Dirt in the desert has less than 1% of organic matter. There's 5 components of healthy soil: organic matter, water, airspace, and everything that's alive in the soil. If you're planting a fruit tree, or any plant for that matter, in dirt, good luck. It's probably not going to make it. What we need to do is add lots and lots of organic matter, because that organic matter helps create the airspace. It helps create water being able to get into the soil, and it nurtures all the soil life. What happens if you were to put 6 inches of soil in your entire backyard, or 6 inches of soil in the basin around your tree, at that interface between the dirt and the woody mulch, that woody mulch starts breaking down very, very quickly and makes amazingly healthy soil. That's why we need to do a 6-6 rule. So we'll talk about the 6-6 rule in a minute. What goes in your planting hole? This is what I was talking about a little while ago when I said you're going to spend at least as much on soil and supplements. You're going to plant usually 2 bags of Farmer Greg's planting mix. And the cool thing is we sell our Farmer Greg's planting mix. It's by Tank's Green Stuff down in Tucson. We sell it buy 3, get 1 free. In fact, most of our bagged soil products are buy 3, get 1 free. So generally it takes 1.5 bags to 2 bags of planting mix when you're planting your tree. 2 ounces of mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza is soil. It's soil life. It's the microbes that go in the soil. And so we're adding 2 ounces of microbes into the soil. 2 pounds of azomite. Azomite is a micronutrient vitamin pill for your tree. All of this whole list is going in the wheelbarrow. And then you're going to use it to plant your tree with. 2 pounds of worm castings and 2 pounds of organic fertilizer. So start with a wheelbarrow. You put 40% of the native soil that you took out of the hole in the wheelbarrow. You add the Farmer Greg's planting mix, the mycorrhiza, azomite, worm castings, and organic fertilizer. You're going to mix it all up and plant your tree with that. And I go more in depth with this in our class next Monday night called Planting, Watering, and Fertilizing. So make sure you sign up for that. That's in a nutshell. All right, now we're going to talk about the 6-6 rule. At least minimum 6 inches of woody mulch and a 6-foot diameter basin around the tree. Looks like this. This person did their basin above grade with the bricky things that go around the edge of the basin, and 6 inches of woody mulch. This tree was planted in January, and this picture was taken in June. So like 5 months later, this went from a bare root tree to a bushed out tree in 5 months. This tree was doing phenomenally well, and it's because of how they planted it. They planted it using this methodology, what goes in the planting hole, and put a 6 foot, at least a 6 foot diameter basin around the tree. Now, one of the funny looking things about this tree is the peach tree is the small one in the middle. That's a dwarf bonanza peach. The peach tree on the right, the tall one, is the root stock. So when that happens, you need to completely remove the rootstock. Otherwise, it will take over the tree. You see how vigorously it's growing. I see some people posting questions in the Q&A. I promise we'll get to them. All right, that's my 6-6 rule. This needs to be done around every single tree. This is what it looks like in a lawn. So what we're doing in this case, most lawns have sprinklers. And if you're planting your fruit tree in a lawn with the sprinklers just doing their sprinkling, you're probably overwatering your tree. What you need to do is build a basin like this in the lawn, fill it with woody mulch, and then your job is to weed whack at the edge of the basin for the first year or two. Once the tree is established, the tree will do just fine in a lawn, but we have to get the tree established. The other thing that the woody mulch does is it helps with mitigating any water damage, because if the sprinklers come on for 15 minutes a day or 3 times a week or 4 times a week, that woody mulch is absorbing the water and it's not getting down into the root zone. The proper way to water your tree, this is going to sound funny, once a month in the winter, twice a month in the summer. I know, it sounds like it's not enough, but in most cases that's enough, and I talk about that again in depth next week in our planting, watering, and fertilizing class. All right, planting in a lawn. So this was a fruit tree in the front yard at the urban farm. This was an apricot tree. What I did there, because we had flood irrigation, I put a basin in. I went with concrete. I put a concrete footer down about 12 inches to keep the Bermuda grass out of the basin, and then I capped it right here with some nice red bricks. And then I left it open, just you can't see it on the other side of the tree. I left it open so when the flood water came in, the basin filled up, the tree got watered, and the Bermuda grass stayed out of its way. So picture on the right, that's Gizmo, my dog. 2 years later, the fruit tree 2 years later. Here it is 4 years later. So this is the picture on the left is a 1-year-old tree. Picture on the right, 3-year-old tree. 5-year-old tree. That's the same tree at about 10 years old. This is how, when you fertilize and water properly and get them planted correctly, this is the difference it can make. And that made hundreds of apricots for us every year. All right. I'm going to be talking about paid for shade here in a little while. This is the 6-6 rule with a shade cover over it. There are 3 things that you need to do before you put a shade cover up. We're going to talk about that on a different slide. But this is done properly. This tree was planted in January. It burst in growth, and 6 months later, this is what it was. So this is possible. The biggest solution is lots and lots and lots of woody mulch. I get this question a lot, not so much these days, but in the past years. When I find mushrooms in my yard, how do I kill them? Well, that's soil life. If you've got mushrooms growing in your yard, you're doing something right. And that left picture, that white fuzzy stuff in there, that's mycorrhizal, that's fungi. That's the good stuff. It's breaking down the soil. The picture on the right was a citrus tree that I planted at the urban farm. That's about a 4 foot by 4 foot basin. That's all the space I had for it. But that's another way to do a basin around a tree. This is a basin in a gravel area. Again, 6 foot diameter basin, 6 inches of woody mulch. It needs some shade. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that right now. So here's the thing. There are 3 things that you need to do before you ever put up shade around your tree. And my invitation for you is, if you have a question about whether you should put up shade, you're going to stand back 8 feet from the tree. You're going to snap a picture of it, and you're going to email me that picture at greg@urbanfarm.org and say, should I shade this? That's what I'm here to help you with. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to shade the ground. And you shade the ground with 6 inches of woody mulch. It insulates the ground. It makes healthy soil around the base of the tree. It holds water like a sponge. It does so many great things for the tree and the environment around it. So that's the first thing you do. So in my fruit tree program, there are rules and there are suggestions. These 3 things here are rules. Do this to your trees. Am I saying that emphatically enough? Thing number 2, cowpeas or sweet potatoes as a ground cover around the base of the tree. Sweet potatoes come from the grocery store, organic sweet potatoes. You plant them in March around the base of the tree, or cowpeas. Cowpeas we give you when our lot opens up. I'll tell you here in a bit how our fruit tree program works. And when our lot opens up in January, we will have packets of cowpeas for everybody that comes in and shops with us. We just give them away. Cowpeas are nitrogen fixers. They grow voraciously. They love the heat. They make an edible pea pod. They're not great edible pea pods, but they're edible. And they keep the ground up to 50 degrees cooler in the summertime. That is the difference between your fruit tree making it or not. And thing number 3 to shade your tree is shading the trunk. You're going to paint it with IV Organics tree paste. So this is what it looks like. We have it in our shopping cart. This little can goes a long way. What you're doing is you're painting the trunk of the tree with it. It keeps bugs out. So in permaculture, we've got some permaculture webinars coming up over the course of the next month. We talk about stacking functions. This is one of my favorite things to do in permaculture. Permaculture I like to call the art and science of working with nature. Stacking functions is having one thing do many things for us. And this IV Organics tree paste, there's a longer, bigger story about how we found it. It's the only commercial one available in the country that I've found. That's why I like it so much. It shades the trunk of your tree, number 1. It keeps the trunk of the tree from getting wind burned in the winter or dehydrated in the summer. One of the things that's happening, especially in yards that are big and open and get a lot of wind, the trees dehydrate. This tree paste will help keep that from happening. There are some fertilizer components to the tree paste that go in through the trunk of the tree. Plus, it helps keep bugs out, the boring bugs, the ones that bore into the tree. So we have this one product. It does 4 things. That is what in permaculture we call stacking functions. I love that concept. And then, and only then, do you put up paid for shade. Paid for shade is some kind of shade structure that you assemble. So yeah, there you go. That's how you shade your trees in that order. 6-foot diameter basin, 6 inches of woody mulch, cowpeas or sweet potatoes. By the way, you can dig the sweet potatoes out of your basin and eat them. And the tree paste. Do those 3 things on every tree. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. These pictures came unsolicited from a gentleman about, well, 2017, so 8 years ago. He covered his entire front and backyard with woody mulch, and we got the Barbados cherry, the jujube, the mulberry, the pomegranate. This was January of 2017. This is what it looked like in June of 2017. Look at how these trees exploded. I'll show you again. There's nothing but sticks on these trees. And look what's happened to them. This is what if you plant properly, feed your trees, and give them lots of woody mulch, this is what can happen. This is his backyard with woody mulch with a fig, an apricot, and a peach. This is what it looked like. They look like 6 months later. All right. Oh, I love this one. Earlier this year, you, meaning me, Greg, helped Farmer Rick out with my dying lime tree. He watched our video casts, drastically altered the ground around the tree, bought mulch and fertilizer, and this is the difference that 4 months made. 4 months. This is his words, not mine. That's the difference. When you fertilize a tree that's undernourished, that tree on the left is the same as the tree on the right, just 4 months later, but there was no basin around it. I said put a 6-foot diameter basin around. He put a 10-foot diameter basin around. He did my basin fix. If you have a tree like this on the left, I have a basin fix video with how to fix it and make it do what it does on the right. Once we get into the Q&A, I'll post the link for the basin fix video. But it involves planting mix, mycorrhiza, azomite, worm castings, and fertilizer, and putting it in the basin and watering it in. This tree on the left needs nutrition. We're undernourishing our trees. All right, how much do you water? I'm going to go in depth on how much to water. I can't tell you specifically how much to water. It depends on your soil. But what we do in our planting, watering, and fertilizing class is we give you the tools to be able to decipher and figure it out. Get a soil moisture meter or soil probe. My watering strategy, there is a whole document on 2 pages on watering. It starts with once a month in the winter, twice a month in the summer. This is assuming you're using our watering method, our planting methodology with your 6-foot diameter basin around the tree. I promise you 90% of the time, the trees don't need more water if you're giving them a good deep water once a month in the winter, twice a month in the summer. I learned this in the 1970s on our flood irrigated property near 28th Street and Indian School, where I planted my first fruit trees. I planted fruit trees and the irrigation water watered them. And the trees thrived. And back then, we got water once a month in the winter and twice a month in the summer. Imagine that. So that's my watering methodology with one big caveat. The first year, you really need to pay attention to those trees. So if you water them on May 15th, on May 25th, I want you to go out there and start paying attention to the tree and seeing if it needs water. Sometimes on the first year, the trees need a little bit earlier water. Also, with our super hot summers, they may need, if we're going to get a 118-degree day, the night before you definitely want to water them. You definitely want to water them the night before. That'll help them a lot. That'll keep them from losing leaves, losing fruit, like that. And more woody mulch. Here it is. Sweet potatoes, front yard of the urban farm, 2018, 2019, 2018, excuse me. A little bit of a scratchy throat. It was 89 degrees. I have one of those little pointer things that you point in the ground. It was 89 degrees under the sweet potatoes. Those are sweet potatoes that grew wild at the urban farm. It was 140 degrees with no ground cover. And 6 inches down, it was 120 degrees. That is enough. That's the difference between your trees making it and your trees dying. So plant your ground cover. And I'm available to answer questions about that tonight or whenever you have them. All right. A few more slides here and then we'll go into Q&A. You need some help? You can get an epic yard planting session with me to help you plan your garden and fruit tree plantings. I had a lady, I still remember her name. I had a lady about 8-10 years ago. Came to me, did a garden consult, and when we got done with the garden consult, she said, "Oh my gosh, Greg, I wish I would have done this before I planted out and killed $1,000 worth of fruit trees." Because I answered all of her questions. I told her why the trees died. I've seen it all. These are available. I believe it's urbanfarm.org/consult. Once we go to the Q&A, I'll drop those questions in the Q&A space or in the chat space. But I do those. That takes about an hour. You send me your address so I can look you up on Google Earth and pictures of your space, and we get on a phone call and chat. Costs $120. I guarantee you're going to get your money's worth. If you're not happy, I will give you your money back. In 12, 13 years of doing these, I've never had to give anybody's money back because it's so power-packed with good information. So I'm there for you. Our citrus program. So our fruit tree program is 26 years old this year. Started in 1999 when I discovered you could go into most nurseries and every big box store and they would sell you a fruit tree that would never make fruit in the desert. And I called that bogus. So I started giving classes in 1999 in my living room. I would have classes where I'd get 2 or 3 people and come and sit down in the living room at the urban farm, and I'd give them this information. And then they started to want to know where do I get fruit trees? So we actually started the deciduous program in 1999. And the citrus program, come back here. The citrus program we started in 2004. The citrus program, trees come from the only commercial grower in the state of Arizona. They're down in Yuma, called Sunset Citrus Nursery. I would say 98% of the nurseries in Arizona buy from them. So we're all getting the same trees. And the way let me go here. The deciduous program, these are trees that lose their leaves in the winter. And it's been going since 1999. How our program works is we do education all year round. The second Tuesday of every month, February through December, we do a fruit tree chat. And I think the URL for that is treechat.org. And we answer your questions there. And then in the fall, we do these classes. We've already done one round of them in September, and I do a second round in November, just to get people really conscious and really educated on how to grow fruit trees in the desert. And then we open a pop-up nursery. It's kind of like a Christmas tree lot for fruit trees. Imagine it that way. We're open for 2 weekends at the end of September, early October for citrus. We're open for 3 weekends at the end of January. And you come and get your supplies, because we carry all the supplies that you need. You come and get your supplies, your fruit trees. We've got people on lot. I've got one guy that's been with me for almost 20 years. He comes and helps in January every year. His name is Chris, and there's Ray and Janice and Jordan and Elise and Catherine, and these are all people that come back year after year to come and help. They are trained in how we do what we do, and so they can answer your questions. Our warehouse that we use is near 7th Street and Camelback in Phoenix. If you are buying fruit trees from us, we do not ship trees. You have to come and get them from us. They are climate and season appropriate trees for the low desert. So here's the thing. If you buy our trees, plant them the way we suggest, in 3 years, you're going to be getting fruit. And in 5 years, you're going to be getting an oh my gosh amount of fruit, because that's the experimenting I've done over the past 50 years of fruit trees. I've figured out which ones work. That's what we bring in. Your next step, take our classes. We have the one next week, which is planting, watering, and fertilizing. We put together a master course in growing fruit trees in the desert. And guess what, guys? It's free. All of our fruit tree education is free. You can find it at urbanfarm.org/root camp. There's at least 70 different pieces of information in there. I put these classes in there, so if you want to rewatch this class, it's available. My watering methodology. We have blueberry data sheets. If you want to try blueberries in the desert, they're very hard and very experimental, but that data sheet's up there. There's so much information in Root Camp. Then place your order. We want you to pre-order your fruit trees. Pre-order your fruit trees. You do that at store.urbanfarm.org. And yeah, that helps us do our planning. One of the things we place our pre-order for deciduous trees in April of every year. So I kind of capture the kind of trees and the number of trees that we think we're going to need. We're already running out. We are getting low. I think we have 6 dwarf black mulberries left. We sell 180 of those a year. They're amazing. They make a nice hedge. The dwarf black mulberry makes a dwarf berry. It makes more berries than anything, makes more fruit than anything I've ever seen in the desert. It's amazing. So I ordered another 60 of them today. But get your pre-order in at store.urbanfarm.org. Sign up and find out about our programs at fruittrees.org. That takes you to a landing page at urbanfarm.org and tells you about our entire program. And there you have it. So these 2 pictures. Top left picture came from one of the people that adopted one of our trees. This was 3 years in. They said, oh my gosh, Greg, look what we harvested today, which is absolutely amazing. The bottom right picture, those are mid-pride peaches and Anna apples. I know this because the Anna apples are ripe and the mid-pride peaches ripen at the same time as the Anna apples. I want to take one note here. One note is that these don't look huge. I thin my trees some, I don't thin them a lot. If you want huge fruit, you thin the tree to 1 fruit every 3 inches. And you'll get bigger fruit. I like them any size, so I don't thin them a lot. What we have to be really conscious about in thinning is making sure that the branches, especially on peach trees, don't get too long, because the fruit hangs on the edge of the end of the branch, and the branches can break. So you have to thin for that reason. So that's the reason. The bottom picture came from my kitchen about 8 years ago at the urban farm. Um, that's why I know what they are and why they're small. So, all right, kids, going to bring me back. Go over to the cute questions and answers. If you did drop, oh, I can see it here. All righty. Let me just clean up some of these real quick. Y'all telling me that I didn't put the pictures up. Karen says, I planted a gold-kissed apricot that I bought through you on 1/13/24. Planted it and it does fine until recently, but has always seemed a little too short. So one of the things that we discussed in last week's class is our method for keeping fruit trees at 8 to 10 feet tall. So I definitely would like to see a picture of this, Karen. So if you snap a picture standing 8 feet back, that tells me a lot. In the last several months, the leaves are folding in, but the leaves at the end of the branches look totally normal. What's going on? I'm going to need to see a picture of that, Karen. So please send over a picture, greg@urbanfarm.org, or really any of the emails that you get from our team, they circle back to me. I'm the guy. So send me a picture. Quite honestly, Karen, it's probably malnutrition on the tree's part, and I can make suggestions on that. Beth wants to know, doesn't woody mulch attract cockroaches and scorpions? It does not. You either have cockroaches and scorpions or you don't. Both cockroaches and scorpions don't like to be in woody mulch. They like to be in dark, quiet spaces, in piles of wood, in backs of your shed, in places like that. Woody mulch does not attract cockroaches and scorpions. All right, Eric, on the 6-6 rule, you have flood irrigation and chickens. I'd rather not do the bricks, but the irrigation washes the mulch away and the chickens scratch it away. Any other options besides bricks? You can go down 6 inches, but the irrigation will still wash some of it away. The 6-6 rule, and I've done it in flood irrigation before, you can pass on it in flood irrigation, but if there's any way you can get it in the flood irrigation for the first year or two, especially, your tree's just going to do a lot better. So we've got bricks. You've got that plastic edging that you can put around it. Yeah. Paul wants to know, where do you recommend I buy woody mulch? So we sell bags of woody mulch. You buy 3, you get 1 free. So if you need a little bit of woody mulch, Paul, there's that. You know, if you want 3, 4, 5 trees to do, with woody mulch, that's fine. If you have any more than 5 trees and you're going to be doing this gardening stuff like a lot, there is a website called chipdrop.com. And they will deliver you a load of 20 cubic yards. That's a lot. Take note of that, of woody mulch for free. So check out chipdrop.com. I know that Arizona Worm Farm will sell it to you by the truckload. So if you have a truck, you can go get a load of woody mulch there. So there's 3 examples. Andrea says, how do I help my peach tree when it saps? There's 2 things that could be doing that. A fruit tree borers, and what'll help with that is the IV Organics, and I'm drawing a blank on the other thing. Both of them really are from malnutrition issues. So just like when we're keeping ourselves healthy, we're less susceptible to bugs and things like that. Same with the trees. So likely, Andrea, a nutrition issue. You want to send me an email with a picture, I'd be more than happy to look at it. Are we supposed to plant the entire organic sweet potato or the rooted sweet potato sprout? Either one's good. What I did this year is I took a sweet potato and I took three toothpicks and put them on a triangle around it, and I put it in water and I let it sprout. And then I took those sprouts out and I planted those, and it worked really well. That's how I'm going to do my sweet potato sprouts this next season. All right. In a 6-foot basin, how many sweet potatoes would you plant and how deep? So when you're planting both the sweet potatoes and the cowpea seeds, you want to make a divot, go about 3-4 inch wide divot and 4 inches deep. You're going to put good planting soil in there the first year. So your planting mix in that little divot that you make, and you plant the sweet potato down maybe 3 or 4 inches. You're going to water it every day or two, along with the cowpea seeds every day or two for the first 10 days until it gets established. And then both the sweet potatoes and the cowpeas are on the same watering schedule as your fruit trees. That's the important thing, because if you're planting things underneath the fruit tree that require water more often, you could be overwatering your trees. And an overwatered fruit tree and an underwater fruit tree, the damage looks the same. They start wilting. So what happens in many cases is somebody will be watering their tree and it starts to droop, and they think, oh, it needs more water, and they give it more water and it droops a little more, and then they think, oh, it needs more water, and before long you've overwatered that tree to death. So hope that answered your question. My 50-year-old Tangelo tree has problems. Only one branch of it started dying, fruit and all. The soil around it is clayish. No way to water it. No way to water it? Are you hand watering it? I am going to drop in the chat, I'm going to drop my tree basin fix video. Let's see here. Basin fix, here it is. You guys might hear something in the background or not. All right. I made this maybe 5 years ago. That link will show you how to fix the basin around, the broken basin around a tree, and get lots and lots and lots of nutrients to that tree. So, and the other thing is, tell my wife I am proud of her. Tell my wife, it says, tell my wife I am proud of her. If you want to send me a picture, I'm more than happy to take a look. All right, done with that. Let me see. So Paul says, I'm a bit confused about mulch and potato ground cover. Which is it? Both. It's both. 6 inches of woody mulch and plant the ground cover in the woody mulch, because it spreads out over the woody mulch. The woody mulch holds on, cools the ground. It adds, holds onto the water. It makes healthy soil. It keeps the ground somewhat cooler, and yeah, brain fart. There you go. Woody mulch and sweet potatoes and cowpeas for sure. All right. Do these suggestions, same for the high desert? Yes, same for the high desert. These suggestions actually are good anywhere. I'm finding, for those of you that don't know, I live in North Carolina now, and I am been talking with the cooperative extension agent over the past 3 years since I got here. I shared with her these things, and she said that'll work perfectly here. So high desert, low desert, zone 7, zone 5, the planting methodology is the same. You don't ever want to, Anonymous wants to know, you don't ever want to put the mulch right up against the trunk of the tree. we suggest, and you'll learn this next week, we plant the tree on a mound in the middle, and so that the woody mulch doesn't get up against the trunk of the tree. All right, I got Bruce in Australia. Hello, Bruce. You've been to our classes before. He wants to know about the tree paste in Australia. You're looking for something called a biodynamic tree paste, Bruce. So look that up for Australia. See what you can find. I don't think IV Organics is available there. Anonymous wants to know, how often do I need to water a fig tree? It's planted last year. Currently irrigation twice a week, 50 minutes. That's way over watering the tree. Once a month in the winter, twice a month in the summer. That's too much. Come to our class next week and we'll go more in depth about that. Established tangerine tree, but the tangerine tree, best ever tangerine tree, but this year a lot of the tangerines are falling off. What would be causing this? Malnutrition and heat. Come into our class next week. I'll talk a lot about that. My trees are planted and established but do not produce much fruit. Suggestions? Yes, you're giving them the wrong fertilizer. I would guess you're giving them a high nitrogen fertilizer, which makes lots of green and no fruit. You need to do the Basin Fix video, which is in the webinar chat, and fertilize. In fact, go to urbanfarm.org/nutrition for our full nutrition program. Yep, that's the one. We have a full nutrition program. Oh, it helps if I put the Basin Fix video out to everybody. Here's our nutrition program. The Basin Fix video I only sent to the hosts and the panelists. Silly me. Copy. Here is the Basin Fix video in the chat. All right. I've heard deep woody mulch brings tons of ants, mice, and rats. Not my experience, and I've been doing woody mulch for 25 years. Got that one. Do the cowpeas and sweet potatoes go directly in the woody mulch? The cowpeas and sweet potatoes go in a divot about the 4-inch divot, 6 inches deep, where you put planting mix for the first year. Once they're established, they will come back year after year in the woody mulch area. We don't do specific on grapes. Where can I buy your fertilizer and moisture meter? Store.urbanfarm.org. Some of the stuff can be purchased and picked up and purchased and shipped. The big bag products, they need to be picked up at the nursery, and we're only open about 5-6 weekends a month at or a year. There's our store.urbanfarm.org. Let's see here. We're coming down the home stretch here, kids. James says, I'm thinking about using short chicken wire for my flood irrigation basins. That could be a really good use of chicken wire. James, keep me posted on how that works. I'd love to see pictures of that. What is the best time to trim or prune citrus tree? After the fruit comes off in June or July. You don't do major pruning. You do a little pruning, a little pruning, a little pruning. You can prune, just you don't want to leave any big gaping holes in the citrus tree. All right. Can you touch on what to do if you have drip emitters currently? Yes, we have a drip circle that we have available. I'm dropping them in the chat box for you, Anonymous. I will cover them more in depth next week, but that's our drip circle. Basically, a drip circle plugs into your existing drip irrigation system, and it has 10, 20 half-gallon per hour emitters. It's a circle. It goes around the base of the tree, and when it turns on, it distributes the water evenly throughout the basin of the tree. All right. Anonymous says, when you do a basin and 6 inches of mulch, should the mulch layer be at ground level or above, or does it matter? It doesn't matter. If it's above ground level, you need to put an edge on the basin. If you go below ground level, then, and I'm actually filming a video on how to do an in-ground basin, so I can show that'll be coming out here in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And when planting cowpeas and sweet potatoes, how do you keep them from being buried by the mulch? The cool thing about cowpeas and sweet potatoes is you plant them right the first year in a divot 6 inches deep, 4 inches wide, with some planting mix in it. And once they're established, the cowpeas reseed themselves every year, and they will reseed themselves in your woody mulch. The sweet potatoes grow underground, and they'll come up year over year in the desert. Beth says, I have a tangelo tree that was supposed to be a dwarf, but now it's 12 feet tall. Can I top it back to a shorter tree? Yep, you can absolutely make it a shorter tree. Snap a picture standing 10 feet back and send it to me. I'll give you some coaching on that. Maybe the same thing for Larry. We have a 20-foot tall lemon tree that is a super producer. This year, 2 of the major branches have cracked due to weight of the lemons. You need to be pruning on that tree. I had to cut off one of them. I've propped the other one up with a 2x6. Is there any way to save it? Again, send me a picture. I need to see the damage, and probably. I had 2 citrus trees at the urban farm that probably back in 2000, 2001, they looked like they were dead. So I cut them back to a 4-foot tall stump. I was going to have my tree guy come and remove them, and I never got around to it. And the dang thing sprouted and became full new trees from a 4-foot tall stump. So yeah, don't give up on it, Larry. There's plenty that it can still do for you. Yes, Mary Ritter, we do foliar feed our trees, and look at the nutrition. I dropped a nutrition schedule in. We will be talking about fertilizing next week. Name of a fruit tree pruner? Unfortunately, I don't know anybody to trust in the Phoenix area that would prune your trees. Greg, this is Hill. My California tangelo is planted in a hard clay planter. Okay. Is it, I know you have a place in Phoenix. Is the planter in Phoenix, or is it in California? All right. Alan says, I planted citrus trees 2 years ago. Can I put a 6? Yes, you absolutely, Alan, can put a 6-6 basin around the tree. Here, I'm going to drop the basin fix video. There's the basin fix video in the chat box. Do that. And we will have all the supplies for you to do that in January. V says, we recently had our oak tree trimmed and had it shredded. Is the freshly shredded wood okay to use around the fruit trees? Abso-flippin-lutely. You want that stuff, especially if it's on site. And should the pile of wood chips be left for weeks or months before using around the tree? No. When planting your tree, you never put woody mulch in the hole with the tree. Once the tree is planted, woody mulch can go around the basin, the 6-foot diameter basin or larger. No problem. It will not hurt the tree. All right. Coming down the home stretch here. Clint here, 20 miles south of Tucson. The soil is not soil, it's dirt, it's caliche and stone. Even a drill bit barely cuts into it. How do you recommend digging such large holes? Well, the hole itself only has to be 2 foot by 2 foot and a foot deep. Attend our class next week on planting, watering, and fertilizing. We will go more in depth with that next week. And you need to do a perk check. So you fill the hole with water and make sure it's draining. So come next week, Clint, and I'll cover that in depth. All right. Michelle wants to know, do sweet potato vines grow all year round? No, this is not sweet potato vines, the plant. This is sweet potato plants that are vining, just so you know the difference. You want to use sweet potatoes, or do we need to pull them up at some point? Same question about cowpeas. Both the sweet potatoes and the cowpeas replant themselves year over year. The cowpeas leave seeds behind. They are annuals. They die in the winter. You want to use that nitrogen-rich mulch around the base of your trees. The sweet potatoes, you can harvest some out of the ground, but some of them get left in the ground. They'll just come out year over year. Let's see here. Nathan, do you have any peach trees for the Phoenix area with a 10-foot radius? Oh, yeah. So, Nathan, we actually encourage you to keep your trees small. It's a pruning process. Any of our trees that we sell can be made to be 6 to 8 feet tall. We cover that in multiple classes. It's called backyard orchard culture. There's a document in our root camp called Backyard Orchard Culture. If you want to send me an email, greg@urbanfarm.org, and say, send me the Backyard Orchard Culture document, I will send it. You can do any of our trees and keep them to be 6 to 8 feet tall. Anonymous says, when the tree planting mulch is done, should everything in the basin be ground level? It depends. You can make the basin above ground level or at ground level. It's up to you. All right. Earl says, what is your advice on using soaking hose for watering? The soaking hose is below ground about 3 inches. Great. As long as you, with all of our watering methodologies, you want to deep percolate the area. So you don't want to put an inch of water on top. You want to put 6 or 8 or 10 inches of water on top so it percolates the entire area. So if you run that for 2 to 4 hours, make sure it gets into the ground, you're good. All right, James says, for the guy who has the dig in Caliche, I recommend a rotary hammer. You can get one at Harbor Freight. You can also rent one. If you want to do it by hand, you need those steel digging poles. I think they call them, James, I think they call them San Antonio sticks or stakes, that kind of stuff. All right. Oh my gosh. 39 questions later. That was amazing. Beth says, I have 2 older desert willows that are big but dying. I never had a good basin for them and was terrible about fertilizing. I'm getting lots of healthy new sprouts near the ground though. Do you think if I cut those off from the tree, it might grow a new tree? Absolutely. One of our trees our willows got blown down in a storm. I took cuttings and I made 24 cuttings. So I have 24 trees in pots now that I'm going to plant next year. Svetlana, is it too late to plant citrus and fig trees in the ground? It depends where you are. If you're in the low desert, figs, not too late. If you're in low desert, it might be too late on foothills around Phoenix, Svetlana. I would probably at this point, Tucson. Okay, cool. I would probably keep them in a pot on a patio and plant them after February 15th, if it was me this late in the season in Phoenix. Oh my gosh, Beth, great question. Are the dyed wood mulches okay to use? No, 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 emphatically no. That is paint. Those are chemicals that they use on them. You do not want to use the dyed mulch. Only use natural wood mulch. We sell it in our fruit tree program by the bag. You'll get Chip Drop can deliver you all kinds of natural chipped wood. So yeah, don't use painted, dyed, rubber mulch, none of that. You want to use natural wood mulch. Is that emphatic enough, Beth? All right, kids. So thanks for being here tonight. 53 of you stuck around with me till the end. That's amazing. Next week is our planting, watering, and fertilizing class. You can find out about it at urbanfarm.org and go to our calendar page. We have some amazing things coming up. We just put them up on the calendar page today. If you look at November, let me just cover them with you real quick. Somebody said, tell my Wi-Fi I'm proud of her, says I'm amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it. Can you tell I'm passionate and love what I do? Woohoo! All right, I'm going to review our calendar for the rest of the month. We have, on Monday night, we have our planting, watering, and fertilizing class. On Tuesday night, we have our seed chat. Tuesday the 18th, a week from tonight, we have our seed chat. We do every year a permaculture design course. It's a 72-hour design course to learn permaculture. And we are doing on November 20th and on December 2nd, we are doing a permaculture design course Q&A. Don and I are going to get on in a chat just like this, and we're going to talk about what a permaculture design course is, the difference it can make in your life, to answer your questions. So those are both free. Cool. This class is being recorded, and I will send out a replay for the person who just logged in. And on the 22nd, there is a tour of the Bee Oasis in Mesa. That is a small urban farm in Mesa, Arizona. Don is my partner in offering the permaculture design course. And so check his place out. It is amazing what he has done there. And then on Sunday the 23rd, we have a tour of the Tempe Garden Gals homestead out in Tempe. What they're doing is amazing. And then on Tuesday the 25th, we have a review of what permaculture is with our monthly garden chat. So we have a jam-packed lot of stuff this week or this month. Go to urbanfarm.org, go to the calendar page. You can sign up there. You'll get an email about all this stuff pretty soon. Beth says, thank you, Greg, great info, interesting program. Thank you all for being here. It was wonderful spending time with you, and I'll see you next week in the next class. Bye, guys.